did you go to school?
And who's your...
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason morons.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cult scrims and con artists. I'm Jack the Insider, otherwise known as Peter Hoisted for tax purposes.
And I'm Joel Hill, and this week, everything's computer.
Computer? Oh, beautiful. It's the way it should be.
Wow. Isn't it just? And while I would love for that to be the most cringe thing coming from the United States of America at this point, unfortunately, Pete Hegseth and his mate Mike Waltz have very different ideas.
It's been a rough week for the basic concept of competence in government. Whether you want to call them war plans or attack plans, the nincompoops running defence and intelligence in the United States just made one of the biggest fuck-ups in political history.
Nah, Jack, it's actually fine. It's not.
No, what do you mean? I mean, they used an unauthorised messaging platform to avoid a paper trail, sending classified information to a person they didn't know was in the chat, while one of the petition participants wasn't just in Russia, wasn't just in Moscow, he was in the Kremlin.
Yeah.
What more do you want?
So they're good people, Jack. It's fine. The journalist, though,
they do mean well.
He's a real piece of work. He's no good. He should be fired.
Yeah. Look, I can see that they've got to you too. Are you worried you'll be denied entry to the US for your already paid-for trip to Hawaii in May? I have good news and bad on that front, Joel.
Yes, Jack. I'm actually bloody terrified of that. I'm either going to Honolulu or fucking El Salvador.
It'd be good for your skin, El Salvador.
Which one's good for my skin?
It's good for being flayed off you.
Oh,
well, at least when you get back from your extraordinary rendition to a prison in El Salvador with zero due process and no access to legal representation, you'll have a case of CB-CO waiting for you at home. Nice and cold it'll be, Joel.
Yes, well, it'll be fucking winter by then, won't it? I reckon that's on the card. See, if Albo decides that I'm not really worth a new tariff in some elaborate prisoner exchange program...
You'll know how that's going to go.
I know, I'm going to be there for a while, I know. So there might be quite a few waiting for me, actually, quite a few cases. That's good. But look, there is no more delicious way to end a traumatic experience of unwarranted incarceration with no due process than with CB-CO beer. And if you want to reproduce my experience in some kind of weird parasocial ritual, order some cases from CB-CO beer. Don't forget to use CRP10 to get 10% off, and then just jump straight to flight to the US, accidentally mention your feelings toward Donald Trump at border control, and when, or if, you finally find your way home, beers at the door!
You got beers waiting for you.
Beers!
Look,
and they will be cold because it will be winter.
I know what you're thinking, listeners. Why not just drown your sorrows on the plane on the way over?
Mm-hmm.
But according to recent deportees, people deported on commercial flights are barred from ordering booze. That's not just un-American, it's un-Australian, Joe.
Fucking right.
That's not a direct violation of the 8th Amendment on cruel and unusual punishments. It also might have a fair bit to do with, was it the 13th Amendment? Was that was prohibition, wasn't it?
What, give them a beer? I reckon the 13th Amendment should be everyone should be able to get a beer, especially if they're allowed to hold a gun in battle.
Yeah.
But that's not the story.
I don't know what it is. Not that the Constitution really matters anymore very much. Courts are just hanging in there.
We're just making up the shit as we
almost
go.
Collapsed.
It's fine, don't worry. So look, one thing that does still matter is the Patreon. So please join. You can sign up for as little as $5 a month, and it helps justify the fucking hours it takes to make this thing actually happen. Writing and producing take forever. But we really appreciate it. And our existing patrons, thank you so much.
We love them.
Thank
we love
you.
them. All right, Joel, that's enough begging. Save your breath for the CBP agents in Honolulu, because it's time to really make sure you're fucked at the border with the Conditional Release Program's weekly news. Now, listeners, we now know that the Trump administration's national security leaders couldn't organise a surprise birthday party without offering the guest of honour, the birthday boy or girl, the choice of the chicken or the fish 3 weeks in advance.
Actually, no, Jack, it can't be a girl. That's DEI now. That's illegal. You can't have girls.
Yes, no,
they don't have
fair
jobs
enough.
now. That's an
Fair
old
enough
thing.
too. Well, no, look, governments do leak, sometimes strategically or more embarrassingly at the hands of a disgruntled whistleblower. And what we have here for the first time in recorded history is an accidental leak.
Ooh,
It was an
fun.
accident.
That sounds like Trump's pants.
A whoopsie of U.S. national security where the most senior staff in U.S. national security prefer to play with their own phones, ignoring the requirement from the Department of Defense and the CIA that all national security communications take place on secure networks.
Oh.
We're going to talk a little bit about those secure networks afterwards, but we've got to cover this story first, Joel.
We do. The
That's,
chief
on your significant expertise on online security.
Yes, paid is. I will be invoicing you, listeners. This is paid consultancy. So the chief villain of the piece is said to be an unnamed staff from the office of President Trump's national security advisor, Michael Waltz. So one of Waltz's staff is
Alex Wong. He's actually named.
Ooh, don't name the kid. He's probably like 21. Brood.
There was a photo of him produced. He looked a bit older than that, to be honest. But
okay,
man in his 30s, I would say.
They usually employ the kids. Well, I mean, someone young probably wouldn't have fucked up this badly, but look, put your ear into a seashell.
Tickety, 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 as we just scroll through the list.
Yes, exactly.
That's all he's done.
If you put your ear against the wall, maybe on a seashell, you might very well hear the sound of young Alex's ritual ass kicking as we speak, depending on time zone, of course. Just fucking phone books out.
Don't do that again.
Yeah. Or you're taking the fall, kid. Oh no, it was Michael Waltz. Anyway. So Waltz, of whom an anonymous White House insider offered the keen character assessment, quote, everyone knows he's a fucking idiot, is said to have the support of the president, for now at least.
Will Waltz be the first to go? I mean, who knows in Trump world? And Waltz might actually be promoted. Or he might just continue to lurk around the White House until he accidentally live streams the presidential colonoscopy. Oh my God, I didn't know other people were watching.
Oh, bless. So, look, 18 senior national security staff used their private phones when summoned by President Trump's national security advisor, Michael Waltz. And it was a relative who's who of the Trump administration, including the Vice President, J.D. Vance, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Isn't that Little Marky or something?
Little Marcus. He puts his initials down as MAHA.
Yes, the old middle name to make you seem really serious.
That's a bit slimy, isn't it?
It shows you mean business or you're an academic. Either one. There was, of course, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth, the Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Director of the CIA John Ratcliffe, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and her deputy Stephen Miller. I'm surprised that he's the deputy. He's kind of running the... Anyway. And, of course, Editor-in-Chief at The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, who got a Guernsey for reasons that are now being attributed to clumsy finger syndrome. Clumsy Alex.
I don't hit
fingers.
it with my big fingers.
Yeah. So Goldberg sat silently in the Houthi PC small group while the others wrangled the pros and cons of a military strike in Yemen 2 hours before it began.
One analyst based in New York placed President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, in Moscow when he entered the group chat. In fact, he was in the Kremlin. We know that now. He was... Privet, comrades. Just wait a moment or two so Vladimir Putin can log on. They would have come to him and said, look, you can watch the bear baiting tonight, or would you like to watch America's top national security staff quibble about whether they're going to bomb Yemen or not? Tulsi Gabbard also considered she was overseas at the time, but forgot where she was, Joel.
Oh, I do that all the time.
I do that all the time.
All the time.
All those Asian countries. She was actually in Japan.
Oh. That one looks different.
Yes. In gangster parlance, though, every single one of their 18 phones was off. Every single one of them. Not using the good stuff. Not having the nice man from the Pentagon hook up the JSINT and all this sort of stuff for them on their government-supplied phones. Nah, I'm just going to use mine.
Too hard basket, mate. Too hard basket. Trust me. We'll talk about this later, but wrangling people to use official devices and official software as opposed to their own shit is easier said than done, especially when you're dealing with fuckheads.
Apparently, it takes up a little time to set up, and they get annoyed and impatient. But
no, I've seen that happen. Company directors are quite like national cabinet secretaries. Anyway, the 3 separate chats over several hours of dialogue included another anti-European spray from Veep Vance, who just wants everyone to say thank you. He was hinting at sending Europe the bill for the strike on the Houthis, either uninformed or untroubled by the fact that the British Royal Air Force had assisted US fighter jets with refueling in that particular strike and had launched their own raids on Yemen in previous weeks.
They did boom booms all of their own.
Yeah, and they paid for it. Should they say thank you to themselves? Unbothered by these tricky details too was Secretary Hegseth, who reached the caps lock for added emphasis in replying to Vance, saying, VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic.
Pathetic.
Jesus Christ. I mean, seriously, show me on the dolls where the bad Europeans hurt you guys, because I don't know where this is coming from. It's just sad. Oh, sorry, it's Russian disinformation because you're fucking morons and you spend your time on 4chan instead of being with your families. Anyway, sorry, never mind. So look, 15 minutes earlier, Secretary Hegseth had suggested options were available. To bomb or not to bomb, that was the question. And it's quite a question. They seemed to not really be that bothered by it. And here Hegseth veered into the prophetic. Quote, waiting a few weeks or a month does not fundamentally change the calculus, the former Fox News host typed. Quote, two immediate risks on waiting. One, this leaks and we look indecisive. That's a lot funnier now than it was at the time. Or number two, funny, Israel takes an action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We don't get to
kill those bad guys. Someone else going to do it.
So cringe. So fucking cringe. Jesus Christ.
Well, then Hegseth's day got a lot worse when he let a few political cats out of the bag after his flight touched tarmac at Joint Base Pearl Harbor in Oahu. That's where you're going, Joe. Mm-hmm. That's probably where they'll hold you.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's where I want to
go. As he greeted the gaggle of media, God, he was wearing a lot of hair product. Mm-hmm. Did you see it? Just a lot of product.
It always is. Look, I don't have that problem.
Yeah, it always is, but it was just like dripping off him. Anyway, as he greeted the gaggle of media, it looked like Hegseth had reached for the pomade and could find only sump oil, Joel, to manage his coif do before he deplaned. He showed the world the full array of his political tricks. Deny everything and shoot the messenger. That's it. They're his skills. That's all he's got.
It's pathetic. So nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that, Hegseth told reporters.
He said it 4 times in different places.
Just to really nail it in. And then, of course, he launched into the condemnation of his old group chat buddy. Oh, how easily they just cast them off.
Just
Mr. Goldberg.
Didn't we used to be in the group chat, bruh?
Yeah, we used to be mates. I think we were mates. Were we mates? You're in my group chat. What? So Hegseth was blissfully unaware that the White House just confirmed the signal messages were genuine, just minutes earlier. Just minutes.
Just between the plane, just hitting the ground, getting down the runway to a stop. The White House, well, that's genuine. And he didn't know that by the time he got off the plane. Too busy sticking sump oil in his hair.
And to be honest, these are the sort of things you actually do learn within minutes because you're a part of government. And the idea that someone would get that breaking news on the plane, on their phone, they would then relay that to you, or you would get that because you're paying attention to current affairs. You're not doing any of those things. You're on fucking 4chan or fucking Twitter, and you don't see this thing that just happened. And now you're going and squaring up to the press and lying. And you know what? The best part of that, it doesn't matter. No one cares anymore. So how there's no consequences on this is just beyond me. So look, Goldberg would later confirm that Hegseth had announced specific targets, attack sequencing, weapons, and aircraft deployed 2 hours before parts of Yemen's capital, Sana'a, is that right?
Sana'a,
yeah. Started exploding. Cool. So Goldberg turned to X and right on time, reports from Yemen confirmed the attacks were underway. Yeah, wow. That sounds a lot like war plans to me.
It's a matter of definition, but it does smack of an episode of Get Smart, where a goofy pratfalling Agent 86 is played by Pete Hegseth, dials into the chat on his shoe, only to miss it by that much. Uh-huh. But here the parallel must end because Control had the cone of silence. You know, they were better than you, Pete.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's very sad. So did no one think to ask who JG is? Like, no,
everyone could just see JG down the bottom there, not saying a word.
Who's that?
Oh, good old shy JG.
Who's that?
Got to get him out there. We should take him out for a few drinks.
Yeah, loosen him up a bit, get him laid. All right. So look, did America's most senior national security personnel see JG and think maybe like Julia Gillard's popped in for a quick briefing? Because she's welcome. Why not? Yeah, cool. I mean, has Johannes Gutenberg gone digital? I mean,
Yeah,
he
the
might be
founder of the
Little bit
moving type.
Yeah.
Actually, be moving
printing press, something like that. Yeah,
the printing press. That'll do. Yes,
Yeah.
that's much better.
yeah, he's dead. So the question is now, of course, whether this is, as the photos have suggested, a learning moment for the group chat crew, or will it just usher in a golden age of governmental stupidity where each act of wanton idiocy is dumber than the last? And look, anything is possible now. It's this gilded golden age of just incompetence being normalized. And of course, on the other side of the road, Gabbard and Ratcliffe are busying themselves throwing Pete Hegseth under the bus because, I mean,
Yes.
why not? Fuck it.
And that was in the Senate Intelligence Committee, Joel. They've both appeared before him. Pete hasn't yet. Hasn't got on the seats just yet. Tulsi Gabbard, Joel, I don't know. Someone took a close up photo of her. Her skin looks terrible. It looks like she's been bathing in napalm.
Oh, really? Wow.
Ugh.
Poor thing. I mean, look, when it
Not
comes
good,
down to
yeah.
it, a lot of conspiracy theorists have decided the timing of this, and it was all just a big setup to try and make them look silly in front of this investigation panel. That's dumb and insane. But
Yeah,
when it comes down to it, when unable to explain the inexplicable, they just went, you know what? Fuck it. Hegseth. It's him. It's the Fox News guys with all the tattoos, with the oily hair.
And of course, no one's really contemplating the big issue for me, like the elephant in the group chat, or rather the absence of the elephantine frame of Trump, who, when asked about his chatty subordinates, happily conceded he knew nothing at all about their signal shenanigans. And you've got to wonder, shouldn't he be told about bombing raids? Yeah. Shouldn't he have some input there, John?
No.
As the President of the United States.
No, he is a figurehead. He is there basically to collect a check from the United States, not in salary, but in grift, and shut the fuck up while the real president does the job.
It was on a need-to-know basis, and they figured the President did not need to know.
Because he would forget anyway.
Well, that's right. Can you imagine hooking him up with Signal?
No, I can't. It would be the worst client in history. I can't imagine sitting there and explaining to him how Signal works. But the messages, they disappear. Why are they disappearing? They're off my phone now.
I think. Did you see him? Because it got to the point where, they were talking about it not being war plans or attack plans, not war plans. They're different from war, and they kind of lost out on that because the Atlantic did release the screenshots of all that stuff. Showed Hesketh giving out bombing times, bombs they were going to use, aircraft they were going to use, etc., etc., etc. And so that defense fell flat. And so Trump went, maybe that Signal, it's not the kind of platform, I think there might be something wrong with it.
Yeah. Well, they're getting Elon Musk to look into it. There's so much to this story we're not going to bother covering because it's so dumb and everyone else has talked about it. But the idea that some fat-fingered idiot has added someone by their initials without realizing it's the wrong person and then gone, okay, that's fine, nothing to worry about here, probably too drunk to really give a shit. And then they're going to get fucking Elon Musk to do an inquiry into why you're an idiot? No. They're going to come up with some pea-brain shit. It's going to sound very similar to what RFK Jr. is going to discover about vaccines and autism.
Yeah, it's going to be something
And
like
it's all just going to make us go, fine, whatever, fuck off, over it.
Now, Joel, I want you to put on your nerd hat right away and explain some of this cybersecurity stuff, particularly around Signal, which may be a broken platform, as Donald Trump has suggested.
It's not. It's really not. And this is the thing, there's been lots of mainstream media coverage about this, and that's great, but it's been frustrating because no one ever bothers talking about cybersecurity, and the ones who do, they get libertarian fuckbags in to be like, Signal's great, without any political fucking analysis whatsoever. Guys, come on. There's two things here. Mix them together. So look, Signal is a very secure app. It is indeed end-to-end encrypted. That means that when you send your message and it goes to the other person, unless you're the other person, you don't get to see it. Anything between you and them is gibberish. It's incredibly fucking unlikely that most people in that chat could be compromised by some kind of magic phone virus that's going to read those messages. It's unlikely. It's not impossible. There's Pegasus and things like that, and we'll get to that in a sec. But this is the thing, obviously disappearing messages are a bad thing for the retention of messages and information, which is really important for, record keeping and transparency and government. We can bleat on about how Signal is safer than Teams or Google or whatever, but they're all encrypted anyway. But they also have enterprise-grade retention systems that are designed to basically prevent anyone from hitting the delete button from actually deleting shit. delete, just in case someone here works for a large company and they think that deleting something off Microsoft or Google means anything. Here's a little surprise for you. It doesn't. It's all retained. It's a legal thing. I think it's like 7 years. But it seems pretty obvious this isn't a bug, but a feature for these guys, because I think they've been told to use Signal, probably by Stephen Miller, to be honest, to avoid those sort of pesky freedom of information requests from the so-called legacy media, those criminals, those asking questions criminals.
That's a credible theory, Joe.
Yeah, it could be bullshit, but I mean, like, you know, I'm paranoid at the best times, so whatever. So when it comes to disappearing messages, they are good because nobody actually covers their tracks. Has anyone ever like called you and be like, "Oh, bro, do you have any like methamphetamine?" And you're like, "Mate, make sure you like delete those texts that you sent me on Saturday at 3 a.m. because like if the cops see my phone, we're in trouble." No one does that. So you have message expiry, right? And message expiry for around an hour is usually enough for situations like anything because you remember shit. The timer starts when you see the message. A week timer, fuck me. They just don't understand what disappearing messages are. Like, you may as well just turn off disappearing messages. Like, that message sits there lingering on your device for a week. That is a cop's dream, a week disappearing messages. You fucking idiots. Anyway, so like the other biggest concern for me is, as you said, that Witkoff was in Russia. That is huge. And like you say, he was in the fucking Kremlin. And this isn't because they're using the mobile networks or the fucking Kremlin Wi-Fi, though that has its own concerns, of course. But they're mostly sort of ethereal James Bond shit. Like I said, end-to-end encrypted. A high-value target like this, mixed with a general understanding how shit for brains, means he was likely being surveilled physically at most, if not all times, and there were probably plans to implement anything they found out along the way. So let's assume Witkoff is, like many people his age, skeptical of convenient technologies. And they are. Trust me, they fucking are. He may be using a passcode instead of Face ID or fingerprints, otherwise known as biometrics. So they can't be picked up on cameras. You can't get someone's fingerprint on camera. You can't get their face and replicate it on camera. Passcodes can. $10 he's fucking using one. Also, when you go to an unfamiliar location, often your accounts will require you to log in again. They'll see you're at like some sort of unfamiliar thing and go, "Oh, are you?"
Like the Kremlin?
Yeah. They'll be like, "Are you right now? You might want to log in again." Now, this is the kind of shit that's really easy to pick up. Password tapped in, CCTV footage, you see him tapping it in, you write it down, you got his password, no problem. Or, let's face it, not even CCTV footage, more likely high definition footage from actual surveillance focused on a high value target in the fucking Kremlin where it's not really hard to find a camera. Jesus. So what's the chance this genius uses the same password for all his accounts, all right? Including the ones with classified information. All right, let's just say the password convention on the highly classified accounts is too complex. What's the chance if he isn't using the same password, he can't remember that big, long, scary, complex password he was forced to do? Man, it's got like 10 characters. So he writes it down on paper and sits there in the Kremlin for several minutes, tapping it into his phone at 1 stroke per minute, dunk, 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 while anyone with a camera could capture the entire page of fucking passwords.
Just to interrupt you there, Joe, if you've had a bit of a listen to Witkoff, I'm not entirely sure that he needs to be just foolish to be pro-Russian. He actually speaks in Kremlin talking points.
Yeah, okay.
At the best of times.
Yeah, that's... See, the harrowing thing is we like to think that this incompetence is the biggest threat, but yeah, that's not necessarily the case. Yeah. Anyway, let's assume
if he's not a Russian asset, he's doing a very good impersonation of one. Put it that way.
I do like that line, and it does chill me to the bone. So let's assume that this is incompetence and not actual treason. The primary concern for me here, and in most instances of this sort of shit that people talk about, is the physical security aspect, not the magical idea that your shit's been taken over. Now, there are instances of properly hectic malware, like that Israeli Pegasus exploit. These are often rendered useless if phones are updated routinely. Security updates patch the holes that these applications exploit. They find new exploits. It's a bit of a back and forth. I can tell you right now who I fucking bet thinks that updates are bad.
Old people, man.
This cunt, yeah. Well, yeah. Like, to be fair, yeah. Like, even the young one, I reckon Hegseth probably thinks it's like something about updates are blasphemy or some shit.
Who's this, like Bill Gates telling me what to do?
100%. And they're never going to restart their phone because that is just a fucking affront to them as well. So look, there's like a Venn diagram of people who do that and who click random shit links that exploit those lack of updates from random numbers on text just to, have a squeeze of what's going on there. Maybe it's like someone texting Pete Hegseth saying, what are you up to this afternoon? I'm a young 18-year-old girl and, I'm hanging out and I got some gin. These cunts. Once again, it has a lot to do with the incompetence of these people, if anything, because if they updated their phones, used secure devices, all the rest, none of this would be an issue. And at the very least, these people should not be using just like their own devices. But if they are, please use an Apple phone as much as they suck with the lockdown mode turned on. Once again, they're not. And I would bet you $10 they don't. But I would bet if I was allowed to bet on politics, Labor was $2.60. You fucking
Not
bastards.
permitted anymore.
You all stop me. Mostly my friends, you and Liz. Anyway. But it's also entirely wild to use an app like Signal on your own phone, full of your own personal contact. That's how this happened. Like, even apps like Teams will warn you are adding someone from outside your organization. It pops up. When you put someone's email address in and it's not within your .com, it says, hey, bro, are you sure you want to talk to someone externally? Because, like, that's not in your company, mate.
Yeah,
and some company policy will actually stop that from happening.
We're told to do.
Which is, like, normal behavior, because you're not meant to be talking to people outside your company unless you're like, leaking information like a fucking dick. So like this is the sort of thing where, it's just designed to make sure dumb fucks don't make mistakes or leak, say, the minutes to a board meeting, which might have information of market confidence or war plans. Fuck me. So Signal is designed for individuals, not for organizations. It's designed to text your meth dealer, not fucking transmit confidential information. Even though Malcolm Turnbull loved it a lot, he also wasn't incompetent, and that's why none of this was an issue.
Some of the people who were speaking to on it were.
There's just no such warnings in Signal. You don't get warned that someone is being added outside your organization. It's not how it fucking works. So this is the issue. It's incompetence at its core, but you need to mitigate incompetence when you're dealing with fucking idiots. And that's why we have these things that prevent people from making mistakes. But Signal doesn't have those. Anyway, so look, but in summary, being in a hostile country in their fucking like government building means your shit is inherently compromised, mostly physically. If I were a top level member of the US government in a place like that, at the very least, I'll be using my phone in a way that cannot be seen by anyone else.
Phone off. The only phone that you would use would be a Pentagon supplied phone.
Yes. And like put a fucking drape over your head. Not a white robe. Although you probably have one handy, like, something like, dark and, covering you because like, look, this is like serious. That's physical security. If you have someone spying on you doing a thing on your phone and you cover that, they no longer see it. Physical security. You figured it out. That's great. So look, yes, Signal is end encrypted and it's not an app about that, but for better or worse, it is the absolute app of choice for criminals and pedophiles worldwide. And that needs to be said, especially considering friend of the podcast, Michael Salter, expert on sort of, child abuse in quite a worldwide setting. He's a fucking incredible guy. He's been lobbying for Signal to give up some of this privacy to help law enforcement chase pedos, which is fucking reasonable to me. But the hyper-libertarian Signal Foundation and all the other dickheads who back this kind of behavior much prefer their claim of privacy to the ability for law enforcement to save abused children from sustained torture. But anyway, look, I mean, like, this is a completely different scenario, right? Pedos don't walk around with a 20-strong entourage of Secret Service, and they don't have widely known schedules. They work from the shadows. They're in basements. In those shadows, Signal works really well because no one knows you're transmitting these signals, and you just get to abuse children willy-nilly. But outside of those shadows, when you know you're a target, a physical target, and you're in the fucking Kremlin, a lot of that end-to-end encryption stops being that helpful, especially when someone can watch what you're doing. And this is what happens when you have a pack of fucking morons running the country. My God.
Yes. Look, the great threat, of course, is that anyone who'd purloined that material, whether it was a Kremlin or whether it was just some other force against the United States, the Houthis have some fairly good anti-aircraft kit.
Oh, totally. They can come back.
And once they see them coming, once they know they're coming, pilots are getting blown out of the air. But look at that. Obviously, that didn't happen, but there was a potential for it to happen.
Yeah, like they weren't just unmanned aircraft. They were like manned aircraft, F-18s. They have people in them.
Yeah. They're F-18s dropping. I forget the bombs they were dropping.
Big ones.
But the Pentagon uses a thing called CIPRANET, which is Secret Internet Protocol Router Network. That's what they do for their day-to-day communications. I think you've also got another thing called JSINT, but JSINT is about, I think, intelligence gathering is the network they use for intelligence gathering, not for just standard communications.
Yeah.
And there are others. And that all comes with your government-provided phone. I mean, I don't know if we remember this, but when Barack Obama became president, how long ago it was, he loved his BlackBerry, remember?
Yes, he did.
I love my BlackBerry. I'm hoping they'll let me keep my BlackBerry. No, we're not letting you keep your BlackBerry. No. You use this phone now.
Even though BlackBerries were famously secure. And so one of the things, just for an example of the physical security thing I was bleeding on about before, is that you can get little phone protectors, little screen protectors that limit the view on your phone. So you can only look at it from a straight angle and anything else. Yeah. You might even have special screen protectors that stop cameras from being able to take photos of your phone. I tell you what isn't on that, stock iPhones. They don't have that. No. You fucking idiots. Stop it.
It's very, very funny. Very, very funny indeed.
I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare. All of my kids are vaccinated.
What would I do if I could go back in time and I could avoid giving my children the vaccines that I gave them? I would do anything for that. I would pay anything to be able to do that.
I have a feeling RFK Jr. is going to do something wildly irresponsible and alarming on a regular basis. I don't know what made me think that, but I just think he's well on his way to doing something incredibly reckless any given day.
Oh yeah.
And we should highlight the dumb fuck shit he does and the harm he causes because, well, we know you guys love this shit and we don't want him sliding into the flooded zone and getting away with it.
It happens, man.
We're keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, I mean, everything gets swept away and it just all becomes a fucking byline. So look, this week, in the aftermath of the measles outbreak, which RFK Jr. decided was to be cured by cod liver oil and vitamin A, the New York Times has reported that unvaccinated children in Lubbock, Texas, a town now famous due to the measles outbreak that just happened, are presenting with vitamin A toxicity. And to clarify what that actually implies, vitamin A toxicity is liver damage. That's what happens when you get vitamin A toxicity.
Yeah, the good news about that is your liver does regenerate. Well, not if you haven't completely fucked it up in the first place.
Yeah.
And that might be a problem with vitamin A toxicity. Just wanted to clarify, cod liver oil seems to be the source of vitamin A they are providing. And then, look, there may well be supplements and things like that.
There are other supplements.
When they talk about vitamin A as a preventative, they're talking cod liver oil, just like the good old days. Are you keeping regular, Joel?
Well, look, to be fair, it's not like the good old days at all. And I'll tell you why. You poor bastards had to drink that shit with a fucking spoon and it wasn't flavored.
Never had to. I think I just skated out of that particular era of
torture.
Of mistrust from parents.
Oh man, because now it's they flavor it and they take out the scenting and there's all sorts of technological stuff. But I did take cod liver oil when I was younger, and man, those burps did not taste good. Oh man, those burps did not taste good at all.
It's not pleasant. I have had it, and I can't remember years ago, and I have had it, and it was distinctly unpleasant.
Yeah, no.
But anyway,
if it's straight from the source, it's putrid shit.
Back to vitamin A toxicity and liver damage, and this comes from the New York Times, as Joel said. Some of them had received unsafe doses of cod liver oil and other vitamin A supplements for several weeks in an attempt to prevent a measles infection, said Dr. Summer Davies, who cares for acutely ill children at the hospital. I had a patient that was only sick a couple of days, 4 or 5 days, but had been taking it for 3 weeks, Dr. Davies said.
It's not good. So vitamin A is used to treat measles. That's been talked about a lot recently, including in high doses, but it's administered by medical professionals under medical supervision, unsurprisingly, and it's only effective in certain circumstances, usually when there's a lack of vitamin A. I'm not going to posit as to why that would be the case. Anyway, so look, this is, of course, why RFK Jr. is shooting his mouth off about things he doesn't understand, and these things have serious consequences. This is the issue. He just says shit. People then believe him, and then really bad things happen. because there's just a triangle of dumb that forms.
Yeah.
It's not good. So vitamin A doesn't prevent contracting measles.
No, it's not a preventative. It's
Not
not,
a
a
prophylactic.
prophylaxis.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So I'll tell you what does prevent you from contracting measles, though. The MMR
That's
vaccine.
the prophylaxis. Yeah, the MMR vaccine. That's a prophylaxis.
Yeah, so that does. Now, I know what you're all thinking, right? I'm being a big pharma sellout here. But I've got a theory. I've got a theory. Okay. So the MMR vaccine gives a kid autism. They become socially awkward, don't get invited to as many parties and sleepovers, and they don't get measles. You feel me? Is this good cooker logic? Have you got me?
I don't know.
No? You don't like my theory? No good?
No.
Oh.
No, because some of them are going to die. Some of them will die.
Well,
So at high doses, vitamin A can cause liver damage, dry, peeling skin, hair loss, and in rare instances, seizures and coma. So far, doctors at the West Texas Hospital have said they've seen patients with yellowed skin and high levels of liver enzymes in their blood work, both signs of damaged liver.
Mm-hmm.
Many of those patients have been in the hospital for a severe measles infection. Doctors discovered the liver damage only after routine lab work. Drink your cod liver oil, sonny.
How fucked do you have to be to have yellowed skin when others are getting liver damage?
I'm fine.
Unnoticed.
I'm just yellow now.
Yeah.
I'm just yellow now. That's okay. It just means I've got to change my wardrobe a little bit. I'm going to clash with white and things like that. So, that's all I got to do.
That is terrible.
And just wear anything that matches with yellow.
I want to put like a poll on social media to say whose joke was worse, my autism sleepover one or your yellow matching clothes one. I reckon I might win, but not in a good way. So while it's not surprising to see people taking terrible medical misinformation from idiots and taking it to the kind of extremes that Americans are famous for, ivermectin, I'll get the horse dose.
Yeah,
Fucking
right.
idiots. They're just so like that. I love them, but they're idiots.
I bought the 4 gallons of cod liver oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, look, if some is good, then a lot must be better.
Exactly. USA. I'm never getting in. I'm going to get kicked out of the border. This fucking sucks. Anyway.
You are.
So, look, the real surprise this week was to see the parents of the recently deceased child claiming that measles is not that bad despite having killed their child.
Yeah, look,
I don't like
did
this.
kill our kid, but, overall, it wasn't too bad.
I'm trying to make light of this, but this makes me so angry, I want to throw the sun at the wall.
British anti-vaxxer and evil human being Polly Tommy interviewed the Mennonite couple who spoke in English and through a translator, as members of the Mennonite community speak a mixture of its patois of English and German. In English, the mother said, "We would absolutely not take the MMR." And the mother said of her other 4 surviving children who were treated with castor oil and inhaled steroids and recovered that the measles, wasn't that bad, They got over pretty quickly, Lost 1, still got 4.
Yeah. Hey, look at those
Winning.
odds. Yeah.
It wasn't.
Fuck you.
Anyway, the translator said the parents told her it was her time. God had decided. Eeny, meeny, miny, you.
Yeah. And God is that key word there that just makes me
They
upset.
believe she's better off where she is now.
Probably.
In the ground. Ugh.
Away from you, fucks.
I mean, it's just a fucking ridiculous statement. She would be better off with different parents. That's one of those things you should look at. I know it's not going to happen in West Texas, but you roll out the old family services and say, got a few concerns about the way these kids have been brought up.
Yeah, you might not be the right people if you think that their death is just God having a chat.
The deceased girl's father insisted that measles helps build up a person's immune system. Also, the measles are good for the body, for the people. What? Also, the measles are good for the body, for the people, the father said, explaining. We are talking about a bit of a patois translation issue there, Joe. You get an infection out. You get an infection, then it's out, and then you'll never get measles again. Or maybe you will.
You're saying that's like a translation issue. And to be honest, I'm guessing that basically they said something so stupid. The translator is like, what the fuck do I do with this, bro?
Also, the measles are good for the body, for the people.
Just get fucked.
As we
Anyway.
discussed as we discussed on the last Black Label, it does the exact opposite. It wipes out your immune system. It certainly can. It can in case of 1 in every 10,000, people will have will be immune system compromised for 30 years.
30 years
That's
is
very
mental.
rare.
That's
During
crazy.
the period of a measles infection, it basically shuts down your immune system.
And then you get pneumonia and shit, and then you die.
Yeah. Then a common cold kills you, you know.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, man. It's not good.
Look, the NBC News reported from the same instance. Patsy Stinchfield, a paediatric nurse practitioner, has seen how the uncontrolled spread of an illness can change parents' minds with the right messaging. She recalls going mosque to mosque to mosque during a 2017 measles outbreak in Minnesota to listen to the Somali community's concerns and educate local religious leaders about the danger of measles and the safety of the MMR vaccine. She spoke to nearly every parent of the children hospitalised in the outbreak. Many of them, the parents were like, "Oh my God, I never knew it would be this bad." These are normal reactions from normal human beings.
Yeah.
Why didn't I know this? Said Stinchfield, who later served as president of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases. The number one thing I heard was regret. This is in the Somali communities in Minnesota. The number one thing I heard was regret, like, why didn't I vaccinate ... my children?
The National Foundation for Infectious Diseases, right? This sounds like the kind of acronym organization like Elon Musk is just firing people from, right? You know, people like this who like
We
know
have
their
more
shit.
news in that regard.
Anyway, so there is a much more sane take on things. You know, these people, a minority, you know, we get exposed to them a lot. We talk about them a lot, you know, on the Facebook group, we talk about them a lot. You know, it gets to that point where it starts to be normalized. They are very, very fringe. But let's go back to the fringe with another pro-measles voice, which is fellow anti-vaccine activist Del Bigtree, who witnessed a young unvaccinated girl in serious condition attached to all sorts of tubes and hoses and things, and came away sort of taken back by what he'd seen. As usual, cognitive dissonance kicked in, with Bigtree suggesting that measles had mutated to become more serious. No, he's not.
No,
it's
mate.
just that measles has changed.
And
Imagine having that brain.
None of the supplements Dell sells are going to do a bit of difference.
No, they will do a
Make
bit of difference to his bank balance. That lying, grifting sack of dangerous shit. So yeah, he's going to continue to push his line of that measles isn't a threat to public health because that's his job. That's his career. His career is to minimize the harm.
That's his business model.
Like pathologies like this in order to sell fucking supplements. What a cunt. He even sees the severity. Going and seeing a child who may very well die from this disease and goes, "Oh, it must be like measles is different now." Fuck you, Del. Fuck you. All right? Go to hell.
Yeah. And to round off the RFK Jr. madness, the top vaccine official with the Food and Drug Administration has resigned and criticised the nation's top health official, that's Bobby, for allowing, and I quote, misinformation and lies to guide his thinking behind the safety of vaccinations. Dr. Peter Marks sent a letter to acting FDA Commissioner Sarah Brenner on Friday saying that he would resign and retire by April 5 as director of the Centre for Biologics Evaluation and Research. In his letter, which was obtained by the Associated Press, Marks said he was, and I quote, willing to work to address the concerns expressed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about the safety of vaccinations, but he concluded that wasn't possible, Joel.
This is just sad. All right, this is a quote. "It has become clear that truth and transparency are not desired by the Secretary, but rather he wishes subservient confirmation of his misinformation and lies."
Such
Ouch.
a dangerous business. Marks, by the way, is a haematologist and oncologist. He's a doctor. See, RFK Jr., not a fucking doctor.
He's a lawyer, and a real shit one. He just fucking milks people's fucking tragedy.
Marks,
That's what he does.
Marks
It's his job.
is, as I say, he has served as the director of the Centre for Biologics Evaluation and Research within the FDA. He was appointed to the position in 2016 after previously serving as deputy director. Among other duties, Marks oversaw the FDA vaccine program.
Got to go to him.
That's the COVID stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's probably why, well, one of the reasons why RFK would want him. Or when we get down into that shoot the messenger stuff, which we will almost certainly have, now that Marks has resigned, he'll turn around and say, "Oh, you know, he let a lot of people down through the COVID vaccine."
Oh, yeah, just 100%. It'll be
You
turning
never win
around
with these people,
making
and
it
they
better.
will never say they're wrong. This is the other thing that people have to understand. You know, I perhaps foolishly years ago, during the COVID pandemic, thought maybe anti-vaxxers, you know, once we do have the vaccines, once we realise that it essentially knocks over the pandemic,
Once
and we can
everyone's
go
not
back to a
dead.
normal life, which pretty much it did.
It did.
These clowns would say, "Well, you know, I was wrong all along." That they would be proven wrong to the point of where they would, you know, with acute embarrassment, basically recant their anti-vax bullshit. But they never will. This is the thing. They never ever will stop. They will continue with this nonsense despite every piece of data, every fact proving them wrong.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, you won't make that mistake again, which means a part of your humanity has died.
Yeah. Well, when we get to RFK Jr., who's going to take this? Who's going to take Mark's position?
A YouTuber.
And who's commissioning the studies? We already know that
YouTubers.
You know, that's yeah.
Seriously, it will be. It will be. It'll be social media doctors.
It's just awful.
Osteopaths.
So there are studies that have been essentially funded by the CDC where they deal with controversial topics like COVID or cancer or vaccines. They have to go through Kennedy's office before they're peer reviewed.
They won't.
What's the chance they'll get knocked over if they're saying the wrong things or concluding the wrong things?
Yeah, it's over. It's completely over.
This is how bad it is. Don't think for a moment, listeners, and I'm sure no one really is that naive that Bobby Kennedy once shown evidence of the efficacy of vaccines. Let's say, as an example, the MMR vaccine, which he has, by the way, that he will have some sort of road to Damascus conversion. It's not going to happen. He will continue to lie and lie and lie.
And he'll profit from
and
it.
The bodies will pile up, and they'll just make up an excuse.
Not only will they make up an excuse, they will make a class action based on a false premise.
I'd see what you got there. You know, despite all those red spots on your dead child, I think what killed him was seed oils.
Yeah, 100%. If we ever needed a sign of big tech's power and reach, it is Meta's grab at the intellectual property of over 7.5 million books and more than 80 million academic and scientific papers, all under copyright, to train its latest AI metamorphosis, Llama 3.
Including 2 of my books, Joel. Unholy Trinity and Fine Cotton Fiasco.
I would be very happy.
Stolen! Scumbags! Thieves!
Why didn't they take Jack the Insider's Guide to Australia?
That's been spared.
I would really like to see that as part of AI, because that would really add some beauty to the hallucinations. I like that.
Meta has sourced the publications from a known file sharing website, Library Genesis, abbreviated to LibGen. For file sharing, read also a pirate organisation that allows free downloads of published material without consideration for the rights of authors, publishers, and copyright holders of the works. The court documents show internal communications between Meta employees working on the Llama 3 project who rejected the idea of obtaining licenses for the works, believing the process would take too long. Oh, it would take too long.
Oh, poor
It take too long to do the right thing.
Oh, poor $1 trillion company.
Ultimately, the team at Meta got permission from MZ. Who could that be, Joel?
Adam to a signal chat. Adam in. Don't worry about it. Who is it?
Well, it's an obvious reference to Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, and the downloads from LibGen using BitTorrent, a peer-to-peer file sharing communications protocol, commenced. File sharing on its own is not illegal, by the way, but downloading copyrighted material without the owner's permission, but if you pass that on to a third party. So, for example, if a Meta employee extracts, let's say, the Fine Cotton Fiasco, Joel, from BitTorrent, and then by email or by some other chat means or messaging means, attaches it to that chat and passes it on to another employee or employees, then that is a clear breach of copyright.
Yes,
Anyway.
it is. And it's very naughty, and it should not be
It
happening, and yet it is. So, Meta employees also acknowledged their internal communications. Training Llama from copyright material downloaded from LibGen was a, quote, medium-high legal risk. And discussed ways of concealing Meta's exposure to copyright actions.
When I talk about that employee who has downloaded, and I'm sure they're not downloading one book at a time, but there will be the occasions you would think where that has been shared internally, a work or a number of works, and they will be getting rid of that as we speak. All of those sort of lines of inquiry, probably in breach of the law, and certainly in breach of these court cases at the moment.
I was just checking with Llama to see what it knew about the Fine Cotton fiasco. As someone who not only read your book, but also listened to the audiobook, where Shane Jacobson pronounced Richard Fiedler as Richard Fiddler, which I thought was incredibly funny. We do know this basically because a number of authors have taken legal action against Meta in a class action, including Pulitzer Prize winner Junot Diaz and comedian Sarah Silverman, which always raises the question of what Llama is going to tell you in Sarah Silverman's voice. Is she going to say, I've got a small dick? I don't know. I find that very funny. I like Sarah Silverman from way back, but the idea of her training an AI model terrifies me. But look, Meta is arguing that its actions in training Llama do not breach these fair use provisions of US copyright law. That seems like a stretch to me.
It does seem like it to me too. And this is not the first time LibGen, the pirate website, has been in copyright trouble. According to The Atlantic, Joel, hit us.
Publishers have tried to stop the spread of pirate material. In 2015, the academic publisher Elsevier filed a complaint against LibGen, Sci-Hub, and other sites. And El Bakian personally, who I believe is the one who, I think a Russian, who runs Sci-Hub.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Well, he may not be Russian, but he's the developer of LibGen, isn't he?
I thought it was a woman, but that's the whole other story. Anyway, so look, going on. The court granted an injunction directed the sites to shut down, and ordered Sci-Hub to pay Elsevier $15 million in damages. What a win. Yet the sites remained up and the fines went unpaid.
It's almost like all that legal stuff didn't amount to a hill of beans, Joe.
I'm pretty sure there's jurisdictional issues there. I'm pretty sure all this is based in Russia. A similar story played out in 2023 when a group of educational and professional publishers, including Macmillan Learning and McGraw-Hill, sued LibGen. This time, the court ordered LibGen to pay $30 million in damages in what Torrent Freak called, quote, one of the broadest anti-piracy injunctions we've seen from a US court. But that fine also went unpaid, and so far authorities have been largely unable to constrain the spread of these libraries online. That's the internet for you guys. 17 years after its creation, LibGen continues to grow. And grow
to the point where just 10 years ago, it only had 180,000 copies of books. And now to the point where it's got some sort of 7.8 million. And once again, what would be interesting and be difficult to prove, but what sort of relationship exists between LibGen and Meta, given that they need this stuff. They will tell you they don't want newspapers. This is to train AI. They don't want newspapers. They don't want websites. What they want is books, academic studies, scientific studies.
Yeah.
In order to train their AI, Joel.
Basically. So when it comes to the scientific studies, I must say I do hold the counter argument of the fact that a lot of this shit is publicly funded and is paywalled by dickhead companies who just extract profit privately from publicly funded research. And I find that inherently offensive. This isn't something that I think is necessarily addressed adequately by piracy, but I also don't think that if you send a letter to your local MP saying, you know what I'm really concerned about? I think paywalls on publicly funded. No one gives a shit. So nothing's going to change. So yeah, okay, sometimes you take the law into your own hands. The issue here, of course, is the fact that when it gets down to that thing of like, who's the victim? Now, I'm not going to cast aspersions on you, lad. I love you to pieces, but I know you're no millionaire, and ripping you off is an inherently unjust thing to do. That being said, I don't have any issue with J.K. Rowling having her shit downloaded, not because she's transphobe, but because she's a fucking billionaire.
You basic. So what they are doing with this theft of this almost sort of 90 million items, 8 million of them books, 80 million academic scientific studies. what they're doing is training their AI. Llama 1 is out now; it's a free download. Llama 3 is yet to hit the marketplace.
Oh no,
I guess.
Llama's out. I'm using it right now.
Llama 3.
Llama 3.1.
Llama 3.1 is out now. So
I have access to cool shit.
now, tell me, because my research indicated that what they were doing there is that in order to use Llama 3, you would need to buy tokens.
Yes, I have a website that interfaces with these token systems, but gives me basically unlimited credits. I have a shitload of AI under my belt.
Okay, but in normal set of circumstances, people who download Llama 3 would purchase tokens. I looked at them, and you can buy 100 for $7 or something. It's not a lot of money, but but expanded across Meta's Facebook and Insta users, you've got potentially billions of dollars coming in through the front door with virtually nothing going out the back door for intellectual property. What staggers me most about this, I take your point about the educational academic stuff and people pirating, I guess, for the benefit of themselves, but they're not going.
Very different.
They're not going on to sell that paper for profit.
No, exactly, and that's
the
difference.
difference.
That's the massive difference, and they're not billionaires doing it. Fuck them.
And also the thing that I want to draw your attention to is when Meta and Zuckerberg were offered the opportunity to do the right thing or the expedient thing, it was straight into the expedient thing.
100%.
So they looked at it and went, "Oh, this is going to take too long." I mean, what they would do is not, they wouldn't be giving me money, but they would seek to license the work across millions of things. And generally speaking, those things are granted fairly comfortably, sometimes with money. Paul McCartney's Yesterday, you can't just go and run out and start performing it. You're going to have to pay some money to Lord Paul.
Unless it is fair use, which is you're doing it in an RSL and there's got my people there.
In the case of Yesterday, it'd be 10 seconds of Yesterday.
Yeah, there is that too. Yeah.
So what this is this sort of criminal mentality of someone like Zuckerberg. Given the chance, he would prefer to do the wrong thing, and if they get caught, if they get tied up in legal proceedings, and if the worst comes to worst, then they'll pay.
Totally. Or they'll just go moaning to Trump and try and use the money they've put into the new administration to try and, dull some of the blow. Yeah. We've seen situations where law firms that have acted against Trump are now being targeted by executive actions and things like that, executive orders. Chaz Lichadella's Pet podcast goes into extreme detail about how these law firms had all their classification, their ability to enter federal buildings, all this sort of taken away, which is basically just a revenge thing. I don't know where this is going to go, but we've only been doing this for a couple of months now. I don't know where it's going to go, but the idea that people can basically put in a phone call and get revenge-based executive orders, I don't know. Is that coming? Maybe it is, but right now, law firms that targeted him, they're facing serious consequences, real world consequences. And that's crazy.
But
that is
again, this is the mentality. This is the mentality. If we get caught, then they'll go to court. The punishment is the process, really, for the litigator.
Yeah, they can outspend them. And
Sarah Silverman lying in bed, staring at the ceiling while the bill is running, or the meter is running from her lawyers, potentially. Anyway.
Well, it's a class action.
And they decide, yes, we'll do all of that. And if we get pinged, we get pinged. But if we don't, hey, happy days.
Fuck it. Yeah. And the amount of legal maneuvering they can do. I mean, this is an age-old thing as well. But I do feel like the rule of law right now is the weakest it's ever been.
Well, as I said before, the line between the US presidency and fascism, that the one thing holding that from happening is the way the courts are operating. I mean, there are other checks and balances like the Congress, which aren't working.
Yeah,
there's the media, which is working. I would think overall. Although you've got one clown you've got two clowns who own massive social media platforms. and can get out their own disinfo and misinfo whenever they want to.
It's not great.
But the courts are that's the thing to watch.
Yeah.
Once we get into, let's say, June, July of next year, these executive actions, I would imagine, won't be happening because then it's time for comeuppance. You've got the midterms in November.
Coming up. Yeah.
And the way things are looking is the American people are pretty, for the most part, I mean, Trump's approval ratings are still fairly high, but there is a large number of people up against him. I saw a poll that would indicate that Michigan would have flipped to the Democrats. Again, one of the failures is that you don't have a political opposition functioning at the moment. They're starting to move. Maybe AOC and the senator from Vermont,
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie will will lead the way as an opposition, but neither of those two are really the sorts of people who knock Trump off.
Yeah.
I mean, someone was saying, there has been a suggestion that Donald Trump will have another term.
That's
and
crazy on a million levels.
It won't happen. But if they're going to argue and say, okay, well, maybe Barack Obama would like a third term.
Ooh, Trump versus Obama would be fascinating.
And see how you get on. Yeah. Anyway, well, we've got a new segment starting. I'm very excited.
We do. We've got a lot of joy here.
Shall we do it?
Hey there, Mr. Mega Man. What's with that there ankle band? Why does it beep when you're near a school? I'll bet you thought you had them fooled. When it comes to felony sex fest, it's always the ones you most expect.
And now, listeners, we have a new segment called It's Always the Ones You Most Expect. And surprise, surprise, these people, predators of children, are not drag queens.
Aww.
The list is long, listeners. Let's start off with Robert Morris. Joel.
All right. So this is from The Guardian. The Texas megachurch founder and pastor, not a drag queen, Robert Morris. I'm guessing the not a drag queen was you. You added that?
Yes, I did.
Is this from The Guardian? Yeah, I thought so. Robert Morris has been indicted on 5 criminal counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child from incidents that occurred in Oklahoma in the 1980s. A multi-county grand jury issued an indictment on 12th of March, which alleges Morris was a traveling evangelist visiting in Hominy, Oklahoma, with the family of the alleged victim in December 1982. This is making my skin crawl. The indictment alleges Morris's sexual misconduct began that Christmas and continued over 4 years.
4 years.
Fucking hell. The alleged victim was 12 years old at the time, and Morris was 21 years
21.
old.
You see,
That's a gap.
nowhere to run on
9
that.
years isn't so bad if it's like 30 to 39.
No, it's bad.
Not good when it's 12 to 21. That's a very different 9 years. That's bad.
Yeah, Morris
That's
was a
really bad.
member of Donald Trump's Spiritual Advisory Committee and Evangelical Executive Advisory Board.
Fancy.
During Trump's first presidential term, and part of an effort to mobilize conservatives and evangelicals in support of Trump's 2024 presidential bid. Mm-hmm. He also hosted an appearance by Trump at Gateway Church in June 2020.
Mm-hmm.
According to a leaked phone transcript, Morris attempted to bribe his victim, said 12-year-old, in 2005, who he confessed to sexually assaulting. Morris told the victim, who revealed herself as Cindy Clemashier, to put a price on it, the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
The transcript allegedly shows Clemashier requested $2 million before Morris hung up the phone. Too rich for his money.
Oh, wasn't worth it. So sad.
After almost 43 years, the law has finally caught up with Robert Morris for the horrific crimes he committed against me as a child, Clemashier said of the indictment of Morris in a text message on the indictment provided by Clemashier's attorney to the Texas Tribune.
Good. So in June 2020 at the Gateway Church, Trump paid homage to his hosts. Quote, "So I want to thank pastors Robert Morris and Steve Doolin They're great people with a great reputation. I have to say that. Great reputation. And Gateway Church, the team has been incredible in hosting us. Great. Julian, an elder at the church, resigned following an internal investigation of the abuse and how the church handled it. So someone had some degree of integrity there.
So they're
That's
great
nice.
people, Joel, although one's a pedophile and the other covered up for a pedophile. But more great people with great reputations are kitty fiddlers. You know, it's just like, it's the one you most expect.
It's so unfortunate because when I was looking at that, I thought Julian had resigned because of the way the church handled it, not because of the way he handled it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
terrible
that's
people.
Good.
But there's more, Joel.
Oh, good.
More than just a pedo mega preacher we need to turn our attention to.
All right, let's just keep going because I tell you what, strap yourselves in, kids. There's a lot of pedophiles
Quite
on
a
this
lot
list.
of the ones you'd most expect.
A Christian school teacher and conservative writer who accused LGBTQ plus people of grooming kids was arrested and charged with molesting a child. Surprise, surprise. Gleason has been a contributor to the Daily Wire, the Federalist, and the Imaginative Conservative. We shouldn't find any of this funny, but God, it is always them. It's like
always them. His author list came down at the Daily Wire. Last time I looked, he was still up on the Federalist.
Of course. In 2023, he lamented the lost children in change in a piece on the Federalist. Quote, "It's about the children, lost, invisible children who suffer in the depths of hell every single day, while the rich and powerful try to indoctrinate us with critical race theory.
The worst.
Oh, the blacks and other ideological moralisms. True victims suffer in literal cages and chains in my basement." Oh, I added that last.
Keep going.
In June 2023, Gleason quote tweeted a video of pride marchers, some of whom were in drag, and accused them of grooming kids. Projection much? The marchers chanted, "We're here, we're queer, we're not going shopping." Is that a great chant? I don't know.
That's a pretty good chant.
Yeah.
We're here, we're queer, we're not going shopping.
Yeah, fair. During one of the chants, a person off camera says, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children."
Yeah. So not a drag queen. Aaron Craig Gleason, 39, was arrested on Tuesday, fretting about children. He was arrested in Okaloosa, Florida, and charged with lewd and lascivious molestation of a child under the age of 12, according to jail records. But wait, Joe, there's more.
Oh, God, okay. So, former North Dakota State Senator Ray Holmberg, a Republican, there you go, has been sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for traveling abroad to sexually abuse children, a sentence more than 3 times what prosecutors recommended. That's probably because it was bad.
He's actually molested foreigners, Joe.
Are they people, though? Really?
Yeah, that might have been the defense.
Probably fucking was. So North Dakota U.S. Judge Daniel Hovland handed down the 120-month sentence on Wednesday, March 26th, to the 81-year-old Grand Forks Republican. Grand Forks. I love America. Federal sentencing guidelines suggested he should serve 37 to 46 months after admitting to traveling to Prague from 2011 to 2016 with plans to sexually abuse children as part of the commercial sex trade.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that like a whole QAnon thing around that? Anyway, that's fine. We won't worry about it. He has probably got the beliefs that we want him to have, so it's fine, I suppose. Despicable.
And surprise, surprise, Joel, a massive anti-LGBTQI.
Yes, well, he's trying to protect the children from the other people so he can have them himself. So I know there's more, and we're not even at the free set of steak knives yet. I mean, we are fucking churning through it, but there is more because there's Ricky Wynn. Ricky Wynn, the social media personality and viral video creator, tough on crime kind of guy who frequently posts videos of San Francisco crime and drug users. Now, it's a shady place. Some shady shit happening there.
It can be very shady. And so Ricky's big thing is like, this is a disgrace and I'm going to highlight it.
Yeah, so that's often called poverty pornography, whereas Ricky Wayne was indicted on child pornography.
Yeah.
So different. It's different. And that was by a federal grand jury. So, yeah, maybe just like mix those categories up. The 39-year-old Wynn is already facing human trafficking charges following his arrest in November. That's once again another QAnon thing anyway. The arrest happened a day after he and a woman were detained at San Francisco International Airport where his iPhone was seized. That sounds like what's going to happen to me in Honolulu.
Well,
Not for child porn, though.
I really wish I had
great.
downloaded all those things.
Yeah, man.
I really wish I had scrubbed my phone.
I wish I was
Nice
using
and clean.
Signal when I was saying all those things about Elon Musk being a fucking piece of shit. Wayne has pleaded not guilty to charges of pimping and pandering by procuring. Wow.
That'd be a nice conviction to get, wouldn't it?
Pimping
and pandering by procuring. It's just got this magnificent alliteration for a start.
And also, it's not easy. I mean, the pimping part is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not
It
easy.
depends because, I mean, look, we are doing this, listeners, in front of microphones. So there is a real chance that you'll pimp and pander by procuring.
And also, they're called plosives, which makes it even funnier.
Yes, I know, and really drive you listeners mad. So we don't want to do that, except to say, if you're employing young Ricky, who's 39, let's say when he's 42, and he's been out of jail for a while,
He's out and about.
America, let's say 48, and you go, oh, well, you look like a fine young man, or you look like a sort of go-getter that we could do around here, Ricky. I'm just having a look through your file here now.
Yeah. So
You've pleaded guilty to charges of pimping and pandering by procuring.
say that 12 times and I'll give you a job. Quickly.
And there's been a new indictment for poor old Ricky filed last month that charged him with 2 additional counts of producing child pornography.
Oh, my God, that's so
Yeah,
bad.
might not be 48, Ricky. I don't think he'll be 48, mate. You're 39 now. I'm going to say 60, mate. I am going to say 60.
I must say, as professionals, we are doing well to make this like even vaguely humorous because this is so fucking dark.
It's really awful. The complaint alleged Wayne coerced 2 minors to engage in sexually explicit conduct for the purpose of producing a visual depiction of such conduct.
What a piece of shit. And this is the fucking guy who was out there being like, look at these drug addicts with mental health problems. Let's objectify them for YouTube clicks.
Yeah.
Fuck
but
you.
wait, Joel. That's not all.
Come
because
on.
we have Minnesota state senator and not a drag queen, Justin Eichhorn.
Can't we
who
have a
was
drag queen
caught
for
in a
balance?
sting operation and resigned under fire I think it was 2 weeks ago now on the Thursday, after he was charged with soliciting a minor for prostitution, and he stepped down before the state senate could vote on whether to expel him. And they were
yes.
they were just really wanted to pull the trigger.
Wrong section of government to be caught as a bit of a fiddler, I'm afraid. Justin Eichhorn of Grand Rapids submitted his resignation in a brief email to Governor Tim Walz. You may recognize him from a recent campaign that cost me $8,000 in expectation losses. And he was saying, quote, I must focus on personal matters at this time. It has been an honor to serve in the Minnesota Senate.
Not those personal matters, but these personal matters.
I'm so glad you made that joke because I didn't want to. But it was on the table, it was sitting there, and someone had to grab it. His former colleagues expressed relief, which is just...
Well, they didn't have to basically impeach him.
Didn't have to tell him to get fucked. Look, no. if he was a federal congressman, no problem. Probably got a promotion.
Get a promotion.
Why not in cabinet? Yeah. I like how you think, Justin. I like how you think. I think you're good. We could be good friends, just like me and Jeffrey. Investigators have placed multiple ads online offering sex for money, according to the charging documents. And Eichhorn exchanged text messages with an undercover officer purporting to his 17-year-old girl for several days until they arranged a meetup where he was arrested. Quote, I saw your post and chance you are still available tonight? One asked. According to an FBI affidavit where a later message asked, what's a guy got to do to get with the hottest girl online tonight? Go to jail. That's what you got to do, bitch.
According to Eichhorn's profile, which has now been removed from the Senate website, Minnesota state Senate website, he's married with 4 children. He listed his profession as entrepreneur.
Oh.
And was first elected in 2016. He got some national attention earlier this month as one sponsor of a not very serious bill that would have designated Trump derangement syndrome as a serious mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
The governor, who had been among the Democrats who also called for Eichhorn's resignation, will have to call a special session to fill the empty seat. Until then, Senate Democrats will have a 2-seat majority. The Northern Minnesota district voted heavily for President Donald Trump in the November election.
It'll be very interesting to see how that goes in the in the election to fill that spot. So Eichhorn was the co-author of that bill in the Minnesota Senate to make Trump derangement syndrome mental illness, where presumably people who suffer the condition could be confined for treatment, which is a
that was the
terrifying
really
piece of
ugly thing
fascism.
about it. I mean, everyone thought it was just hilarious, but people,
not.
I guess, like you and I, might be considered to have Trump derangement syndrome
And
because
sectioned
we
as a
focus
result.
on his
Sectioned and medicated.
Exactly right.
Yeah, it's insane.
So you got the Trump. I think you got the Trump derangement syndrome real bad, boy.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get that ECT. Yeah. No. And like, seriously, like I know people who've done ECT and it does wonders for medical conditions that are providing, causing severe depression. In reality, it's not great when you just electrocute people just for funsies. Anyway, that's where this was totally leading. And that is so bad. Anyway, this guy's a pedo. That saved us all from fascism. Well, for the moment.
And he's not on his own within the Republican Party, the Pentecostal religious movement, all of those who you think,
yeah,
it is the ones you most expect.
It is pretty much the ones you most expect. So yeah, look, we've been saved from this idea that you will be fucking institutionalized for this concept of Trump derangement syndrome, which is a meme. But I must say, like, the idea that we are starting to legislate memes is concerning on its own, and I really hope that's not going to keep happening because it's not a good thing. It has been a huge week in Pete Evans.
Huge week.
The craggy face conspiracy theorist heading to the big smoke, the United States of America. Sorry, these United States of America, to hang out with all his little internet friends. Oh,
it's been lovely to see.
We talk on Telegram. We're friends. No, it's good. We'll eat food together. It'll be great. There have been concerns from people visiting the USA due to media reports of foreign nationals belonging to countries that were close allies of the United States, about 3 months ago, being denied entry and treated cruelly on deportation for committing the high crime of saying mean things about Trump on social media. I'm a little concerned about that. Pete didn't have to worry about that.
No, well, if they went through his phone, they'd put a little rubber, they'd put a big thumbs up stamp on it and go, "We like the cut of your jib, Pete."
They would give him a fucking green card if they saw his Telegram. Luckily, it auto deletes every week, which, to be honest, smart move, Pete. Smart move. You're very shrewd. I know you're not as dumb as you like to put on. So look. When it comes down to it, Pete's tongue has been firmly pressed into the deep cavernous anus of Donald Trump's anus since the influencer come influenced got into QAnon and various red pill media sources turning into the chud that he is now. Didn't take much getting on board. There's a certain pathology that lends to being in the MAGA cult. And while I'm no shrink, I would just say that he has those traits.
He does have
lots of those traits.
He loves the
Now, according to his Twitter feed, and yes, folks, now that comedy is legal and the bird is free, Pete is firmly back on Twitter. Oh, he's back. Oh, he's really back. He's not only landed in Florida for a few strokes at Mar-a-Lago, but he's met the big man himself and his developmentally challenged tech bro overlord. Here's the tweet.
Beautiful evening at the Mar-a-Lago Club with some wonderful friends, Dave and Melissa, who invited me, and the real Sean Stone for dinner. Got to meet and shake hands with the legendary DJ that was spinning the tracks all night for his guest, the president. It's Mr. President to you. At Real Donald Trump, as well as Elon Musk and James O'Keefe.
I think it's James O'Keefe 3. Yeah,
All I wanted to say about that is it would seem to me that Pete's laid down a fair bit of cash to spend a night or two at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
I think it'd be about
Quite a lot
10
of cash.
grand a night, wouldn't it?
Well,
I heard something of those sort of extraordinary rates.
We're about to get to that because that is the least of your concerns, my
I
friend.
didn't mean to stir your thunder, Joe.
No, not at all. No, you didn't steal shit. Luckily, you hadn't done too much research. No one's really actually brought this up, but we'll get to it in a sec. I'm breaking ground. I'm very good like that. Now, this must have been very exciting as he has sung the praises of these people for some time. And for those who don't know the last one, James O'Keefe, ha ha ha, is the guy behind Project Veritas, which is an organization that basically got government employees on Tinder dates, got them drunk, got them horny, got them to say outrageous shit, and then published a video on the internet for these sort of poor idiots to just sort of shame the institutions, shame themselves, shame just like any sort of like idea of a broader political left and trust in government. And it's right-wing operative shit. He's a bit of a genius, but he's also a real piece of shit. O'Keefe was actually booted from Project Veritas, which I believe he founded, due to the egregious misuse of donated funds and a toxic workplace culture that included polygraph tests to identify any possible leaks and punish alleged dissenters. That's fucked in the head.
Look, he's got HR. He's got some HR sort of new ideas. You're going to torture a couple of employees first, you know?
To be fair, as long as they're not DEI, they're not illegal. So we're all good.
Yeah.
We're all good here. It's fine. So as mentioned in Someday I Can Call It Conspiracy recently on the Twats thing, which I much recommend anyone to listen to. It's very funny. He also used donor funds to allocate staff to rehearsals and performances of Oklahoma the Musical.
Oklahoma.
Yep. He played Judd Fry, which I'm sure is a very prominent character. I don't know. It just really does show that so many of these right-wing operatives are just these shitty second-rate performers looking for attention. Jack Posobiec's the same, like failed actor. There's so many of them. And there's just trying to satiate their endless vacuum of pathological narcissism, and they find this is the fucking path of least resistance. Honestly, rinse and repeat, right? It's Pete. Yeah. But the real question is, did he actually meet the Donald and the Doge dickhead? This is a actually reasonable question because
Eddie picks.
That's it. That's where this is leading, because like every other person he meets up with, he grabs a photo with, right?
Yeah.
So you got it in one. You got it in one. Not the big cheese, not the big tech squeeze. No. Now, I didn't actually think about this organically. I'm not going to take credit for it. Cameron Wilson from Crikey called this out in his article. And while other media outlets reported this sort of non-story uncritically, I also kind of took his word for it, to be honest. Cam quite rightly sprinkled a bit of doubt on this side of events, because like that's food for thought. I'm not sure. I did a little bit of extra research to try and figure out maybe, like, hey, where were people? What was going on? And there is something that backs up this claim to immediate fame. Trump and Elon were at Mar-a-Lago on the 15th of March. They actually hosted a candlelit dinner, which included several of the very fine people in the Signal chat, including Stephen Miller and Michael Waltz, alongside Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has been quite busy cancelling the visas of college students who have made the rookie error of publicly claiming that Palestinians shouldn't be killed en masse in their homes. Silly. Grow up, kids. Grow up, you know? One day you'll grow up and be more conservative. So the real kicker is this. It seems that Craigie Pete was taking up a seat at $1 million a plate event. Not $10,000. Yeah, he probably paid for his fucking hotel room. That was $1 million a plate event that Pete went to. That leads to a very, very big question. Who paid for his ticket? Was it him? Who are Dave and Melissa who invited him? And did they foot the bill?
Yeah.
This is some shady shit now. Who the fuck paid that $1 million? Because we know Pete's not short of a quid. Well, it's $1 million because Donald Trump is a con artist.
Well, I mean, I looked at the rates on Mar-a-Lago a while back, and I reckon it's $10,000 a night, but that might even be base, you know.
No, that's what Pete would have paid for his hotel room.
Yeah, I know.
This is for the dinner. It's $1 million a plate dinner going to MAHA Inc. for a politician who isn't apparently running for re-election. I say apparently because, you know, Steve Bannon feels very differently.
He's got big expenses.
He does have big expenses.
He's got two very stupid children.
Authoritarianism doesn't fund itself, you know. Well, it does actually, hilariously enough. That's a crazy thing. So, look, I just think that Pete isn't short of a quid, right? Like, he's got money, but $1 million for a dinner that is highly unlikely to be low carb or even vaguely organic seems a little bit above his ketamine-soaked checkbook. Where are the activated almonds?
What do you reckon? $1 million plate? We reckon it'd be the chicken chasseur with the honey carrots.
Yeah, pretty much. He'd be so upset with the honey. Oh God, there's sugar in this. I'm so upset.
He'd be shattered. But he'd keep it to himself.
I think he would. Because, you know, when it comes down to it, he really is a simp for these people. Yeah, look at his telegram. It's sad as fuck. But yeah, look, that's just more questions than answers, I reckon, on that one. Who are Dave and Melissa, and did they pay for that $1 million ticket? That's a lot of money to go and shake hands with someone who won't let you take a photo.
Maybe they went through all those chocolate bars and found the golden ticket, Joel.
There could have been something going on there, but on face value, $1 million a seat, $1 million a plate. $1 million plate of stale steak. So Pete has been hitting the media circuit, and that is beautiful to see because he's so photogenic and he's so charismatic. He's actually calling his trip to the US a book tour, and this is to promote his recent tome. Yeah, healthy food for healthy kids, which means that unhealthy kids can get fucked. He's written and published this with Children's Self Defense, which is, of course, RFK Jr.'s
Yes, he
former
has,
anti-vaccine activist organization, which it's former because he's decided to leave the organization to show some sort of vague distance from him and the batshit insane.
It's called transparency,
things.
Joe. It's called transparency.
It's like he's given up the peanut farm. He's not going to stop suing pharmaceutical companies based on disinformation that he spreads.
Did you see the Children's Health Defense website had actually procured the CDC website on their own website, was showing misinformation or disinformation around vaccines with the CDC, with the CDC design. So RFK Jr. had to ring him up and tell him to take it down.
I'm actually surprised that he did that. I'm really surprised he did that. To be honest, I just thought the law didn't matter anymore. The fact that he has that shred of integrity is fascinating.
Well, it's pretty obvious, but there you go, and they'll link to it on their on their website. Come and have a look at this. CDC, they say vaccines don't work, kill you, all that sort of stuff.
I can't believe Polly got cucked by RFK Jr. on the, hey, let's just do the CDC thing and see what happens idea.
Wow.
It's quite disgusting. Anyway, so look, this is the kind of organization you want to keep a little bit of distance from because, as we mentioned earlier, they had the parents of the recently deceased child from the Mennonite community claiming that measles wasn't that bad, despite having killed their children and encouraging others not to vaccinate so their children might have an opportunity to die.
Child, not children, Joe. Come on.
Well, yes, but when I say that their child has died and then other people not vaccinate their children, then might risk... well, look, as you are right, it was 1 out of 4. So if someone doesn't vaccinate their children, chances are only one will die.
1 out of 4.
So that is fair. Yeah. That is fair. I'm sorry. Mathematical. Now, look, I digress. I'm moving away from the point. This is a book tour.
Book tour. This is what we need to know about, Joe.
I just need to say this really loudly here. Did you hear that? ATO, Australian Tax Office? It's a book tour. It's a book tour. It's a legitimate business expense. Right. It's a book tour. It's all tax deductible. I'm pretty sure Monica Smith did the same thing on that whole backpacking trip where she was like, I recorded footage. I made content. It's a business trip. I mean, look.
That's where she wrote the book.
No, she wrote the book from prison, apparently. But
she did not. She wrote it in Europe. I remember when she was talking about it. She might say she conceptualized it in prison.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Yeah, that sounds about right. Hey, look, that's another reason. Just tick that tax deduction off. I made $40.
We're talking about small fry compared to Pete, Joe.
Well, to be fair, $1 million plate Pete, maybe he's got some cash he didn't know about. So Pete's gone on to do some interviews, and surprisingly, he's had sort of limited his scope to the usual sort of most hold-barred friendly news outlets. Don't ask too many questions. On Newsmax with Ed Henry, he discusses being cancelled, and this is because of his views on COVID, of course. He said this in the interview.
And when COVID came around, I was very sceptical about the whole mandate, especially to do with the shots and social distancing and mask wearing and everything. And I voiced my opinion, and it didn't go down too well in this country. Did he mention, was there something about Nazi stuff too, Joel? He didn't seem to mention that.
No, it was the real history of Germany that was the issue. It was the real history of Germany.
Yeah, he must have forgotten to mention that he did sort of, contemplate the real history of Germany.
Okay, well, to be fair, in Pete's defense, he was just waiting for someone to notice that, though.
Yes.
But Pete, Newsmax didn't do their research, but he was waiting for them to notice that.
And then there was a sign. Look, I don't want to get ahead of things here. I do not want to get
No. That is. Well, I mean, there's a bit more Holocaust denial to come, but not much. So, look, I must say, the idea of Pete sort of engaging in revisionist history did shock me slightly. There's no sense of irony there, and I'll leave it up to the imagination of the listeners what I'm implying there. Anyway, so look. He went on to OAN, which is One American News, famous for basically getting the shit kicked out of it by Smartmatic.
Objectivity?
Yeah. No, journalistic integrity, yeah. With host Chanel Rion, who's stuck with it from the start. She opens the segment with this word of the day thing. It's heartsome. What's that, you ask? What's heartsome? Apparently it means giving, cheer, spirit, uplifting. And if that clarified things for you, I think you're on too much ketamine.
It doesn't help. It doesn't.
I don't know what the fuck she's talking about, bro. I have no idea. So since OAN was dumped by cable news network DirecTV, basically in the wake of the Smartmatic and and Dominion lawsuits, this sort of slashed their traditional media budget and their viewership, forcing them to be essentially online only subscriber network. The network's taken a bit of a nosedive. Real sad, real sad. I wish more eyes and ears were listening to Chanel Rion babble about heartsome as a concept. But Rion, likely due to lack of other options, stayed on board and has decided to keep the dream alive with fascinating shit like this ketamine-fueled drawl that I subjected myself to in order to write this fucking bit. Now, it will come as no surprise to listeners that Rion is a controversial figure alongside her hard right beliefs, which include a smidge of internalized misogyny in some book she wrote. She also, according to Wikipedia, praised a book written by a Holocaust denier, which I think that's the definition of heartsome. Heartsome.
That would be a
Holocaust denial is very heartsome. It's good. So Peter even struggled on this one. It's very funny. So when I say ketamine fueled, like I fucking mean it, dude. Like she was completely zonked. It was the fucking weirdest thing. This was like basically like Jordan Peterson having the time of his life on fucking Klonopin. It was such a weird, weird moment. And like, so she keeps on forcing heartsome into the conversation. So like he did like his usual charismatic chef bullshit. She's there being like, but that's so heartsome, bro. I just, look, this was torture. It was like a minute and a half. It was torture. Just join the Patreon or put me out of my misery and don't, whatever. So in posting the interview on Twitter, he added this caption.
Great to be on at Chanel Rion for a chat about MAHA. I sometimes wonder if the Australian media would ever like to have a discussion like this.
Okay, so the answer to that is likely no.
Give me a call, Pete. See how you get on.
Yeah. So while he's pushing the idea that Australia is some sort of like backwards country not ready for the truth or the reality of this particular fucking interview as whatever, blah, blah, blah. It was bizarre as it was pointless. He claimed to be all that healthy, affordable eating, claiming that shit like Japanese shiso leaf is something we can all just grab from the shops for fuck all. Mate, most Yanks can't afford eggs. Mate. Reel it in a bit. Reel in your wanker a bit. No one likes it. So anyway, it's the usual narcissistic wellness line. It's that thing of like basically, if you can't afford Japanese shiso leaf, because this is my definition of healthy, then you're the reason you're sick. This is you. You're the problem. You need more Japanese shiso leaf or you'll be staying sick. This is why my book is for healthy
or
kids.
Instead of eggs, you can, like, if eggs are too expensive, you can just have a bit of Japanese shiso leaf and you'll be okay.
Jump on the leaf, mate. Jump on the leaf. I tell you what, it shouldn't be healthy kids, healthy food for healthy kids. It should be healthy food for rich parents because that's exactly what it fucking is. And this guy,
shiso leaf,
just peddles this insane idea because look, I get it, right? And it's kind of nice. He's pushing this idea that cooking should be a ritual we enjoy. I agree with this as a concept. This is very fucking rich. Coming from a guy who has infinite spare time to tell us we should spend all day in the kitchen, right? Like some people have shit to do. And you know what? It's going to get worse under things like fucking Doge. So yeah, thanks for the advice. I love the idea of putting heartsome fucking energy into my food. But you know what? I actually have to make a living. Yeah, it's hard. It's not so hard when
you're... those Japanese shiso leaf, Joe.
No, I can't afford it because that's fucking insane to buy a $5 bunch of nonsense from a shop that takes me 20 minutes to drive to. You fucking psycho. It's just classic rich person brain, man. He just can't shake this classic rich person brain. He was saying things like it's affordable to have 72 herbs. No, you're talking to Americans. They can't afford to get sick, you psychopath. And you support the concepts that make that fucking real. Anyway, so back to the book. Despite glowing reviews from Trunk superfans and, the promoters of Holocaust denial books, his mates, as usual, the ungrateful lot in Australia continue their tall poppy trimming of our beautiful Pete. So in the CBD section of The Age, they ran a story with the headline, New Cookbook Claims from Pete Evans, a Dry Argument, which is that a good headline? It's kind of shit.
Yeah, it's not a great headline.
No, it's not. It's not getting the fucking Walkley. So this revisits the fact that Pete released a cookbook with an essentially deadly recipe for infants in it based on bone broth liver.
Yeah,
this is from the article.
We do need to revisit it, Joe. The book advises not to, and I quote, use tap water unless you have a well. I mean, doesn't everybody?
Oh, yeah.
As it's filled with metals that accumulate when heated. Bullshit. You don't want the heavy metals and fluoride. Remember, it's our job to protect our little ones from toxins. That's the end of the quote. It's true that Australians are advised to boil and cool tap water for babies aged up to 12 months. That's
not for this
correct.
Weird metal shit.
No, not because of that. But water expert Dr. Erin O'Donnell says it's much safer to drink water from your tap than from any private well in major Australian cities. The water that comes out of your tap is monitored stringently to confirm it is safe in major urban centres, she says. If you live in a capital city in Australia, drink the tap water.
So I'm guessing Pete supports everyone having a brainworm just like he does. Totally fair enough. I mean, that's where worms live, in the dirt, in your backyard, where you're pulling buckets of water like a psycho. So look, Pete posted a screenshot of the article, as he loves to, because he loves getting mentioned in mainstream media. And he posted it with this caption.
In today's age, which he capitalised for some reason, they needed 3 writers for this story to talk about why experts believe fluoride in tap water for babies is a good thing. Oh, you fuck.
So my favourite part about this is he failed to mention that this story was one of 3 on the page. Like, I don't think anyone's surprised that he stopped scrolling once it stopped being all about him. But bro.
Yeah, that's it. Where's my name? Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
It's not there. It's not there.
It's like whenever I went to like Bob Ellis's book launches, you'd be out there at the back when we were all like, going for a beer and people would just be looking up their name in the index and you're like, oh, bro, you're not going to read the book. You just want to read the one fucking page you're on, dickhead. Anyway, so look, Pete's got a bit of attention from news.com.au, and while it is a little bit like, sort of light on the detail, sometimes news.com.au does warm my cold, dead heart. And this little last couple of paragraphs on the article really, really got me.
Notably, he appeared to promote the idea COVID was a conspiracy with a story posted on Instagram detailing a list of things people need to, quote from Pete, look out for. Certain code words and implying mass trials and executions were happening behind closed doors. He also shared a detailed graph showing links between a great awakening, great solar flash, secret space program, and machine elves.
Isn't that great?
It is fantastic.
What's a machine elf? I mean, like, obviously there's a lot of buzzwords in there. That's a new one for me. I don't know what machine elves are. And I almost want to email the news journo and be like, bro, what's a machine elf? Like, where'd you get this one? Because like, I want this. This is great. But of course they didn't, like, to my disappointment, they didn't mention the Nazi meme. But to be honest, look at that. Listen to that paragraph. You don't even need to mention the Sonnenrad. Like, I'm sorry. That's enough. That is enough to not listen to this man. If that is a list of things this person believes in, you can disregard them entirely, effortlessly. Fine. So look, all in all, Pete's had a cracking time in the US, and I'm happy for him. He met Pierre Corey, one of the original spreaders of the theory that ivermectin cures COVID-19. God knows how much damage he's done to the world. He's still at it, of course, now pushing the idea that measles is harmless because, well, that's the cool thing to do at the moment, sucking up to RFK Jr. and just generally being a piece of shit.
Yeah, might get a job.
I tell you what, he actually almost certainly will. That's another story. The thing that makes this very, very funny, though, is they quote a pediatrician about measles being fine, which is she's named Dr. Liz Mumper.
Mumper.
Mumps and measles. Bumps and measles. Mumper. I love it when doctors have funny names. It makes me so happy. So in the meantime, on Telegram, Pete is asking the questions that are even sort of too hot for Twitter, like asking Grok whether AI could experience DMT. Now, I've done ayahuasca, I've done DMT several times, more DMT than ayahuasca because ayahuasca is a bit of a big deal. I'm not going to elaborate this on too much because this is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And anyone with any idea of psychedelics knows that this is a fucking stupid thing to say. Grok gave a very vague answer, which humoured his sort of absurd premise, but I can answer it for him very quickly. No, Pete. AI cannot experience DMT or ayahuasca or any other psychedelics, you dumb fuck. This is stupid, and the fact that you thought this was interesting is actually dumber. It's more sad than funny. This is just... Anyway. So look, that was the last thing Pete did in his travels. That was the last message he sent from the United States of America. Oh, does AI get, like, fucked on, like, psychedelics and, like, totally, like, wake up and shit? Shut the fuck up. So now he's home. He celebrated this with some sausages from Bellow beef and some fermented vegetables, which, that's fine. That's fine. And look, I want to say, welcome back, Pete. He's going back to the US in May for a Bitcoin conference, but until then, I guess he can ask himself the pretty old question. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Or the other question, am I a dangerous idiot who spreads misinformation because it makes me feel special and interesting? And these are big questions. I think maybe we could ask Grok. Should we ask Grok? Should we ask Grok?
Maybe ask an ICE agent when he lands. In customs, when he lands at LAX.
I think the tongue position is going to fix him from that. He'll just show him his social media and they'll let him straight fucking through.
Straight through. Mm-hmm. You have been listening to the Conditional Release Program with your host, Jack the Insider and Joel Hill. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. And if you've enjoyed our bullshit, throw us a 5-star review on your podcast app.
So Jack can be found on Twitter at Jack the Insider, Joel on Crunchy Moses with a K, but we don't really, I don't really use it much anymore. It's, it's fucked. Facebook page, Conditional Release Program, shitposting group. It's really great. Jump in there. You got to join.
It's really building, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good fun. There's a lot of stuff in there. I wish we'd cover more of it, or someone else to start a fucking podcast adjacent to us and just cover the shit to the Facebook group, because there is really good content in there.
Really good content. Great stuff around the federal election, and particularly around cooker parties, cooker pollies.
Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that we don't have time to cover, and fuck, we should. But look, join the Patreon, right?
Yeah.
If I could quit my job, this would be great.
Well, the Patreon is up and running.
Yeah, it is.
And we ask listeners to consider throwing a few dollars our way.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you could just throw us a few dollars a month, that'd be great. There's more options if you want to just get weird about it. If you just got to have windful of money, just throw it our way. And you'll keep the lights on, and we'll maybe be able to produce more episodes, because it gets hard.
And finally, all feedback, tips, and death threats should be sent to the Conditional Release Program, @gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, even if it's to add us to a group chat on Signal, which is almost certainly going to be about buying drugs, the real use for Signal for 90% of people. Save some for Joel. He's a degenerate too.
Yeah, I am. And by the way, I actually did ask Grok whether Peter's a dangerous idiot who spreads misinformation to feel special, and I got this at the end.
Whether he's an idiot or just reckless, his pattern of chasing fringe ideas suggests he enjoys the spotlight it brings, even if it's mixed with some genuine belief. So yeah, you could boil it down to him being a dangerous idiot who likes feeling special. Thanks, Grok. Well done.
Good quote. Thanks, Grok.
And thank you, listeners, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me, you guys are bastards.